Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast. I'm your host, Mandy Rose. I'm a holistic health coach with a passion to help others find balance in their life. My belief is that we can indulge in the amazing things life has to offer, like champagne, but still stay healthy using holistic approaches. Tune in each Wednesday to hear interviews with unique holistic entrepreneurs, learn practical tips on finding balance in your life, and get all the behind-the-scenes details of what I do to navigate my own health journey. Nothing is off limits in this series, so grab your shot of wheatgrass or your glass of champagne and prepare to upgrade your life and start healing. Hi guys, welcome back to this episode of Wheatgrass and Champagne. Today's episode is about two of my favorite topics, food and energy and vibrations. And I love that we can finally combine the two in an episode because they really are so closely related. And the guest that I have on today is a really close soul sister to me, Joanna Sanchez. She's the CEO of JoaFitness Coaching. She's also a former bikini competitor, and she's on her own soul and spiritual awakening journey. And she talks a little bit about that in this episode, but I really wanted to make sure to highlight before we jump in a little bit about her background and what makes her so inspiring to me. She was a former bikini competitor, was in this amazing shape. If you go on her Instagram, she posts a few photos back of her competition days. And I think so many of us see these competitive athletes, on their stage with those sparkly bikinis and their really dark spray tans and their beautifully shaped bodies. But we don't realize the mental health and the damage that occurs behind the scenes with athletes, specifically competition athletes. And not only that with the mental health, but also hormone health. And Joanna is no exception to this at all. And so when she was done competing, she really had to start picking up her life again, piece by piece, and really realizing the damage she had done to her body. So she's such an inspiration and has made it a big part of her coaching platform. So I love seeing her help women of all sizes, men as well, but specifically athletes who have done some damage to their bodies and to get back into competing or whatever their sport is with a really healthy mindset, but also a really strong body, working on gut health, adrenals, hormones, and it's just beautiful to see. So before we get into the episode, you guys know I like to nerd out on the science of things so we can better understand it in a practical world. And I really wanted to talk quickly about food and calories. Everyone knows about calories in food, right? We talk about it. How many calories are in a snack pack? How many calories in a cookie? How many calories are in this, and this? But I don't think many people really understand what a calorie is. A calorie is simply a unit of energy. And we know that our bodies need energy to survive. Every cell, every organ, every muscle needs energy. And so calories are not a bad thing. In this episode, we do talk a lot about the mental health around food and the intentions that we put into food. And so I want people to stop fearing calories. We need calories, point blank, period, to function with our body. And so Joanna and I both really preach not only balance in our life, of course, wheatgrass and champagne, but balance in our thoughts as well, and recognizing that food is not necessarily good or bad. It's what we think about food. So calories are not necessarily a bad thing. We just have to better understand how our bodies are using them and how many we need on a day-to-day basis to function in our daily lives. So keep that in mind as you listen to this episode. We talk about the science of our bodies, science of food. We talk about vibration and how that impacts our bodies. And then we talk at the end a little bit about our soul and how when we want to connect with Source, how we want to connect with God and the divine, and we want to have a more high vibrational life filled with gratitude and love and light, we have to fuel our bodies with the food that is going to give us light and love. And that is not filling our body with pesticides and toxins and chemicals. Instead, it's fueling our bodies with food from the earth. And that really just makes our bodies filled with light so we can shed more light into the world with our thoughts and our actions. And so I hope this episode is really inspiring for you. You learn some scientific things and also learn a few practical ways to implement it into your life. So enjoy this episode, and anything that we talk about as far as products or the high vibrational foods list is all in the show notes. So feel free to click there or send me an email or connect with me on social media. Enjoy the episode, guys. Hi, Joa. How are you today?
Hey girl, I am doing amazing. I'm so excited and so grateful to be on this amazing podcast with you.
I'm just so glad that we have found the time to get together and actually have this chat because you are so busy as the CEO of JoaFitness. You are on your own personal journey. You have an amazing social circle of people around you. And same with me, always so busy. So for us to sit down and make this happen is going to be amazing.
I love it. I feel like this was obviously divine intervention, just like anything that you and I have done. And I feel like, just like you said prior to this, I feel like people are just waiting to hear all the knowledge and wisdom that we have. So this is going to be so amazing. I'm excited.
Yay. So I would love to kind of start out with your journey. So, like I said, you're like the CEO of Joa Fitness Coaching. You've had massive success, especially in the last year since you've really worked on your own self. And anyone that's listening, go follow her Instagram. It is the most inspiring page. Every day I wake up, and you've been up since usually like 7 a.m. and I wake up at like 10 a.m. So I see that in the last 3 hours, you've gone to the gym, you've coached some people, you've went out for a run. And I'm like, damn, I got to get out of bed right now. But even besides just you being motivation, you are such a down to earth person. And I love that you share your struggles as well as your successes. And that makes you really relatable. And it helps people see I can be at the bottom and I can make it to the top. So I would love for you to kind of just start with your own personal journey and how you even got into the soul part of health and fitness. Cause I think most people don't align with soul and mental health with physical body fitness. And I love how you merge it all together. So, can you share a little bit about that with us?
Of course. Yes. So, my biggest passion in all of this is being able to show people that health and fitness is way more than just the physical body, right? So, I teach people how to be mentally, physically, and spiritually fit, not just physically, right? And one of the biggest things that I noticed when I was going through my own personal journey was the disconnect that was out there in the coaching industry, right? And I was actually being coached by a male coach for a bikini competition, and there was lack of communication. There was no emotion. Anytime I was struggling, I just didn't feel heard. And I started really getting myself in this deep, deep hole where I lost myself completely into the bikini bodybuilding world. And I realized that once I was coming out of it, that what I had done to myself was so damaging, right? And it not only did it damage my physical body, but it damaged my mind and my spirit too. So I like to call the whole journey of competing in bikini, I would like to call it like an awakening for me, because when we awaken, I feel like you get to your lowest low and something sparks you to awaken. So after I came off of that coaching experience, I had all these gut health issues. I had anxiety. I had chronic fatigue. My hair started falling out. And it was just a sign of what was going on inside of me. My inner body, my inner being was so lost that it was showing in my physical body as well. And the reason being is because I attached myself so much to changing my outer body, not giving a crap about my inner body and what I was ingesting and what I was putting in my body. I didn't care. All I wanted to do was look good on that stage. And since I lost myself so much in that, I ended up coming out of it a complete disaster. So from then on, I grew very passionate about helping others because I wanted to make sure that people didn't go through what I went through. It was rough. It was the lowest low of my life. I literally would lay in bed sometimes and I thought that I was going to die because I was just feeling so chronically ill. So with my personal experience, I started growing so passionate about it. And I started seeing that other people out there were struggling too. And I was like, I have to do something about this. Like, there is no way that I can allow this to continue. So that's how I started getting into coaching. And when I first started health and fitness coaching, since I was still not so knowledgeable about the mind and the spirit and all of that, like the mind, body, soul coherence, I wasn't really experiencing it much. So my style of coaching was very like generic in the beginning, and then as I started going through my healing journey is when I really started noticing that people needed more than just the physical. So it's kind of how I got into it. And then in the past year, when I started getting more into my gut health, that's when things really started to shift for me, like 100%. Like I still, it's funny because it came to me that I was gonna be like, I was gonna have the slogan, "We build your mind, body, soul," but it didn't really make that much sense to me until August of last year what that meant. There was just like this divine download that was like, okay, in mind, body, soul, that's what you're going to do with JoaFitness coaching. But it didn't really make sense until last year. It's like something was placed in my heart to kind of have this mind, body, soul message, but I wasn't really in that journey just yet. So last year I got into the journey of healing my gut, and I started really noticing how much of a higher vibration I was in and how much of my own inner healing I had to do. I started seeing a transpersonal therapist, which is more of like a spiritual therapist, and I started noticing that with my own healing, I started actually seeing the physical changes in my body because I was getting rid of that old identity that I had when I first started getting into bikini competing, and my behaviors started to change, my values started to change, and along that journey, I was able to bring people with me and also allow them to make this huge transformation by starting from within with the resources that I had with my own personal experience. So that's kind of all of it in a nutshell.
I know. It's like if you could sit there, you could probably write a whole book. And
Oh, 100%.
I remember when we first met, I had seen your pictures on Instagram and, talking to people in the Tampa Bay community and how of amazing coach you were and how knowledgeable you were with macros, and you have your glutes R Us bands and the booty program. And I was like, oh my gosh, this girl like has it all figured out. Right. So from the outside to me as like, a friend and like a potential client, I was like, wow, I want to do what she's doing. But like you said, on the inside, you were still like in massive transformation and just trying to like figure out what was next for you. And it's just so cool to kind of see you go through it all. And I remember when you had that epiphany, when you're like, oh, food can be medicine, right? And that's like the quote I wanted to start this whole podcast
Mhm.
with is let medicine be your food and food be your medicine. And once we kind of shift into that, where we're like, wow, it's not necessarily like if this food is good or bad, or if this food is organic or not, or if this food is high fat, low protein, like it's not about that. It's just that the foods we consume have a physiological effect on our body. And I
Mhm.
think that when you start seeing that, and that'll kind of be this whole podcast about the energetics of food and how it influences us and our thought patterns, it's kind of like this light bulb moment where you're like, oh, I don't have to hate myself every time I have a cookie, but I could have more greens or I could do a parasite cleanse and like my mind would change. Like it's so crazy and wild until you actually go through it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's something that I feel that is really, really helping a lot of my clients too, is really starting with what identity they have. Like, what are they identifying themselves at? What emotion are they putting towards their foods? And that's the huge, huge thing about this. It's emotions are energy and motion, right? And I made a little IGTV on this. It's energy and motion. So if you're literally putting that emotion, that energy and motion towards the food that you're eating, and you're feeling guilty and shame and all of this negative emotion, you're ingesting food that has that negative vibration, and you're going to feel like ultimate crap at all times because you're not going to metabolize the food correctly. So that's huge in this. And I feel like that's something that is definitely missing in the health and fitness industry. And I feel like you and I can bring some light to that for sure.
Oh, 100% agree. I mean, I always use the example like, how they have all these studies and we've heard it before. Like, if you talk nice to a plant, like, let's say you have like this beautiful mint plant, and every day you're like, good morning, plant, and you water it. Like, there's been scientific studies shown that talking positively to plants makes them grow and thrive better. So, how is our body any different? Like when you're eating like a bowl of macaroni and cheese and you're sitting there beating yourself up, wondering how many miles you're going to have to run to get this off your body and how like bad you feel because you didn't use organic pasta. It's all those negative thoughts. And then you start eating the food, and then your cells are like blah and they're trying to digest food. It's just like not good. But if you like sit there with gratitude and be like, I'm just really thankful for this. And I'm thankful that my body is able to handle this because I'm going to get back to my routine like tomorrow. What a different energy space you come from, right?
100%. And one of the highest vibrational energies out there is the vibration of love. So if you are giving your body love, if you are sending love with the food that you are ingesting, you're going to metabolize it way better than if you were sitting there, like I said, in shame and guilt and just feeling so crappy about it because you quote unquote cheated. So that's a huge thing too that we teach our clients in JoaFitness is we have to get to the root cause on why you have these thoughts on what you are ingesting. And we are going to move through this and we are going to work through this so that when you look at the food that you have in front of you, you can send it love and you can send love to your body. We are here in this earth to find pleasure. And I feel like one of the biggest things that we do is we shame pleasure, right? Like we're not allowed to have pleasure. Like we're just not allowed to. And food sometimes can be very, full of pleasure. And if
Yes.
and if you enjoy going out and having a froyo here and there, like you deserve that damn froyo. We just got to counterbalance or counteract it with taking care of your gut and making sure that you are eating vibrational foods and maybe some supplementation like you and I do that's going to get your gut in a good place so that you can detox that food. So I just feel like all in all, the balance of it is what's definitely needed in order for people to see the physical changes that they want. And it all starts with
Yes.
their thoughts.
I love that. And this is like going to be such a full circle podcast. So I love that we bring this up now because once we get into like the science of the body and science of the food, we are going to come back around to that soul level vibration and how food impacts like our ability to connect with the divine and our ability to like align with other people. And like you said, have love and have gratitude. So I love that we're going to kind of come back full circle. But I just want all of the listeners, like when you're listening to us talk about the actual science and how we talk about what foods are good for you and what foods are optimal, like that you still remember that we're not preaching like this all or nothing. Like we're both about balance, wheatgrass and champagne, like Joa just said, like being able to enjoy your froyos and your Rice Krispie treats, and then get right back on board and never feel the guilt and the shame because that
Yes.
is probably the worst thing you could do for your health, even worse than the most like alcohol you could drink, right? Like the shame and guilt will be so damaging to the body.
100%. I totally agree with that.
Okay, so let's jump into the science. You guys know I'm like a sciencey nerd. So, and I always feel like if we can better understand how our body works, then we can make sense of why we should do certain habits and behaviors, right? So, when we look at the body, Chinese medicine is like one of the oldest practice modalities of medicine. And in Chinese medicine, they look at temperatures of food. And it doesn't mean temperature as in like it's a cold piece of broccoli or it's a hot piece of broccoli. It means like the effect that it has on your body. So like you have foods like ginger and horseradish and things that are really spicy and pungent. Those things are going to like warm up your body. You know, you have like some hot sauce and you immediately start sweating. That is a hot food. But then you have cold foods, you know, things that are like green vegetables and sea vegetables. And those things are going to make you feel like cooler inside your body. So Chinese medicine has already proven that there's like this energetic component of food. It either heats you up or cools you down. And even looking at bioindividuality and how every person is different and unique, right? I'm sure you see this in your practice all the time, Joa. Like some people thrive really well on like a vegan diet, but other people, they thrive better when they're eating like higher protein and lower carbs. Everyone is so unique and so individual. And so, really, at the end of the day, when people ask, well, what's the best diet for me? I always say, like, we got to figure out what works for you. But we need to remember that our body is just a huge electrical current, like point blank, period. At the end of the day, our brain, our heart, our neurotransmitters, every cell in our body operates on this electrical current. So we have to think what foods are going to help us optimize those electrical currents. And high toxic foods, processed food, chemical filled foods aren't going to do that. So I don't care if you eat a bunch of meat or you love to eat pasta or, whatever. We need to just think in terms of low toxic load and things that are like have sunlight in them and things that are grown fresh. Like if we can just keep that basic thought, it'll help us kind of get more into like what we should and maybe shouldn't eat most of the time, right?
Yes, exactly. And one of the biggest things that really caught my attention when I was going through my whole entire healing journey and I got really deep into researching and everything was whenever they put like two different mushrooms, and one was an organically grown mushroom and the other one wasn't, and they put it under light to really see like the energy that it was producing. And the organic mushroom was producing and radiating way more light compared to the other mushroom. And that right there was a huge epiphany for me. I was like, wow, like this is the reason why they preach organic, because at first I was like, yeah, whatever, organic, blah, like anyone.
So much
And
money.
yeah, like whatever, like yeah, it's gonna be the same food. No, it's not actually. Like, yeah, I preach macros, yeah, I preach having that balance and stuff, but you're gonna feel so much better if you are consuming the organic stuff, if you are consuming the high vibrational foods and the foods full of light. At the end of the day, that's what we're here on this earth to do. We're here to be free and we're here to feel light. And when people say, "Wow, you're glowing," why do you think that is? When you're glowing is because you're full of light. So how can you get yourself to that high vibration where you have light? Well, food is one of the biggest ways you actually can. Taking care and nourishing your body and giving yourself that light so that you can glow.
Yes. And that was part of my research too, like looking at what the human body vibrates at. And anyone that's really into essential oils has like heard about this vibrational stance of essential oils, like rose oil, for instance, like totally sidetracked, but like little fun fact, rose oil is the highest vibrational oil and it vibrates like so exponentially higher than the human body. So it's a great oil to use when you're trying to meditate or when you're trying to like increase the glow of your skin. So the human body vibrates at 6,500 hertz. So we like up that to megahertz. It'd be 62 to 72 megahertz. That's what the human body vibrates at. Disease begins when it drops below 62 megahertz, right? So we can increase our vibration and we can decrease our vibration. So I was like researching flus start at like 52 to 60 megahertz. We can get candida overgrowth at about 55, Epstein-Barr at 52 hertz. Cancer, anytime our body drops below 42 megahertz, cancer can start thriving. And the death and disease process begins at 20 megahertz. So if we're supposed to be at about 65 and death starts at 20, that's a huge range where we have the opportunity to kind of change and shift the body. So, how do we do that, right? Food, like we just said, has its own vibration. So, we take the vibration of the food, put it in our body, and we become the food, right? Like we all have heard this before. So, some examples are like fresh greens are about 65 to 62, really close to what the body should be. But then you can look at like fresh pressed green juices, and that can be all the way up to 250 megahertz. That's huge if the
That's
body's normally
amazing.
like 62, right? But then guess what a Big Mac was? Five megahertz. So if death begins at 20 and a Big Mac is 5, that's a no-go.
You're
And
literally dying.
then right. And then canned food was a 0, which I was kind of shocked by that because
Wow.
I thought like, but I think frozen vegetables are definitely better, but canned, it's been in a can, it hasn't seen the sunlight in forever, it's been processed and fermented and has preservatives in it, so it has absolutely no vibration. Nothing for your body as far as vibration, which was
That's
mind-blowing.
insane. Now, I want to ask something because I know people are probably going to be wondering, but how does one measure their vibration? How do they know?
So a lot of times when they measure vibration, it's like through either like an infrared camera, like I think it's like kind of what you were saying with like the mushrooms. They can like take pictures of things and see the infrared, like the radiation emanating from the human body,
Ooh.
or they can measure it with biochemical feedback. Like it's really cool. Like what they do is you hold like a brass bar in one hand and then they use an electrode on your other finger and they can like measure what electrical currency is flowing through your body from the brass bar to the electrode. Like your body becomes the conductor. And so we can see, and every single organ in the body actually has its own frequency as well. So, like the heart obviously has a higher frequency because it's constantly pumping electrodes and all this magnetism. I mean, they even say like your aura field of your heart is like within 5 feet in front of you and 5 feet behind you. They can
Mhm.
measure the radiation coming off your heart. So it's crazy. So food has vibration, the body has vibration, but so does pathogens and diseases, parasites, heavy metals, toxic burden, all different viruses. They all come with their own energetics and they're usually really, really low. So I think you mentioned like you did gut health is kind of where you started. Can you share a little bit about that? Did you do like a parasite cleanse? Like what does that mean for you?
Well, before I get into that, I do want to share something that blew my mind. And
Okay.
that was I was watching Gaia TV, and they were literally talking about how, because you just said how the parasites and all these different things have a vibration in your body. They were actually talking about how parasites and yeast and all this bacteria and everything have a consciousness as well.
Oh yeah.
So because it's living in your body, so it has a consciousness as well. So when people are like, let's say, addicted to sugar, you have this yeast inside your body that has this consciousness that is yearning and really wanting that sugar, and that affects your human consciousness and makes you want to crave the sugar. So when you actually get rid of that yeast, when you actually get rid of that bad bacteria, your consciousness changes, because the consciousness within your body of those little critters in there is actually changing. So I had to add that in there because that completely blew my mind. And it really goes into what happened with my own self. When I started getting into cleansing, I actually started with a very minimal approach. I didn't do like an extreme cleanse or anything like that. All I did was add in the products that we freaking love, you and I, Mandy, and
Yes.
Shanice, and all my clients freaking absolutely love. Um, the Power Shake, which is the equivalent to 6 superfood salads. Let's talk about hella light, okay? Like that's a lot of light in there, okay?
And it's
And
raw. So, like, it's hard to find anything that's raw nowadays that you can get in like a powder or shipped to your door. Like, usually you'll get foods, but like they're not fresh. And like, this is raw. Like, you can't blend it. You don't want to add any heat to it. You just want to put it in some cold water, shake it up, and be filled with light.
oh, it's so amazing. Oh my God. Like I literally wake up in the morning and that's the first thing I do. It's phenomenal. But the Power Shake was phenomenal for me. And then I supplemented also with a cherry juice for nighttime. Which allowed me to sleep better, which means higher vibration as well. And then the Biomedic is insane for removing toxins and the chemicals in your body, and the aminos that I did. So those were the 4 products that I got into. I didn't do like an extensive cleanse or anything like that. I just got into those. And let me tell you that by the 4th day, I was a completely new person. Just the 4th day. Because I went from being in this state of just putting things in my body. Like I was drinking bang drinks, like 2 a day, and I was drinking powdered pre-workouts and all this shit that probably has the megahertz of death as well. Um, so when I actually started ingesting all this supplementation with light, and I started changing my foods around to more organic foods, and guys, there's literally everything. Like if you like tortilla wraps, if you like freaking bread, whatever it is that you like, there is an organic version of that out there, and that doesn't have all this nasty shit in it. So I started actually switching over to more organic ingredients, and it was phenomenal. Like the first week, I saw tremendous changes in my body. My skin was glowing. I was glowing. I was energized like never before. So I did that for a month, and then that's when I got into a parasite cleanse. After that, I did a 10-day parasite cleanse. And guys, let me tell you what I freak. It's in my on my Instagram too. I have like a gut healing story highlight, and what I literally detoxed out of my body, like I don't even know what the heck to call it, because it was nasty. Okay, like your girl had a lot of parasites in her, so that means that consciousness in there was freaking negative AF, and no wonder I was feeling like death. So once I got
Yeah.
all of that out of me, it was like I was a completely new person. It was phenomenal. Like just the changes, the energy, my workouts, just And let me tell you, it literally started, which I know we're going to get more into it, but it really triggered and started a huge awakening experience for me because I was finally finding myself within that light. So we'll get more into that, but it was insane.
Yeah, I love how you just brought up how like parasites have their own consciousness. And as a health coach, that's something I have to always explain to people is when you're craving sugar, it's not your body craving sugar. Your body doesn't want sugar. Your body wants vegetables. It's the parasites fighting for survival and they're like triggering the sugar craving. They're craving alcohol. They want you to eat foods that are a toxic load so that your immune system and your body gets distracted by the toxins so they can thrive. And they're smart. Like you said, they have their own consciousness. That's how these pathogenic bacteria survive and prevail and take over their hosts. And so, focusing on gut health, I think, is a really good starting point because oftentimes, and I just had this conversation with a client yesterday, it's hard when you're in a negative headspace like you said, had all these self-limiting beliefs, you were doing bikini competition, you were just constantly thinking negative thoughts around food and your body. It's hard to shift out of that. You don't just wake up one day and go, today I'm going to be super happy and positive. You just wait and see. Like you might try, and about an hour later, something happens and you're like, forget this, like screw everyone, like, and you could lay back in bed miserable. So, the biggest way that I have my clients kind of start changing their mental thoughts is by cleaning up their gut because our gut is the second brain. And when we start wiping away pathogens and we start wiping away these opportunistic bacteria with their own damn agendas, we can start thinking clearer again. Like you can literally start seeing light again and seeing happiness and joy and positivity. And it becomes this awesome vortex where like you start thinking positive and then you start thinking positive about yourself and then you think positive about food and then the food has good intentions and it's just amazing. It's exactly what you're saying. You just had this awakening because your mind was able to think clear again.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we preach with our clients too is, you have to take care of that second brain. Okay. You're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling all these things. Well, number one, you have stored emotions inside of you. Like I said before, energy and emotions. Those stored emotions that you have inside of you are now being put onto your food. You're eating your food. That's only causing more storing of emotions and negative vibrations. But if your gut is in a good place and you don't have all this negative emotions and all this negativity around your food and you're getting rid of all that nasty negative bacteria, you're going to start feeling so positive and it's going to create this new energy and this new aura around you where it's not just going to be your physical body changing, but you're going to start detoxing your whole life. Like I notice in my clients, as soon as they start with me and they start feeling good within their inner body, what starts happening is they actually go through a lot of what may be perceived in the outer reality as chaos. But what's actually happening is you're becoming so light and so free that the universe is literally working on the back end and it's detoxing not only your body, but the things that no longer are going to serve you because you're vibrating at such a high level that it's time for you to repel and get rid of all the negative stuff that is no longer going to serve you. So taking care of your gut health isn't just for your physical, but it's also in order to attract more abundance, love, and light into your life. If you are light and your inner body is light, your inner body is literally your outer reality is just a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if your inner body is taken care of and you're feeling really light and happy, your outer world is going to start moving things around so that it can also reflect that light, happiness, and that freedom that you're seeking for.
Oh, totally. Beautifully said. Like
Thank
literally beautifully said.
you.
Okay, so last thing before we move on to like the science of food. So last thing for science of the body, when it comes to parasite cleansing, what is your response to clients or new clients when they say they're afraid to do a parasite cleanse? Because I know that's the biggest fear everyone has is like, oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah, so a lot of the time people are like, number one, am I gonna poop myself? Like, is that what's gonna happen? No, it's not. What I typically tell them is the number one thing, honestly, that really helps them feel better is just showing them my own experience and showing them how much I purged out. And just I always tell them I'm always there for them and I hold space for them throughout the journey. Like if you're feeling some type of way, just let me know. I know emotions are going to come up during your parasite cleanse because you are getting rid of that stuff. So there is going to be stuff that's within you that's been stored for a while that's going to come up. So I always just let them know that I hold space for them, that I have them there for, that I'm there for them, that I will communicate with them through the whole journey, and that yes, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but in order for you to get anywhere that you want to get to, you have to start being comfortable with uncertainty, and you start becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
100%. Find a cleanse buddy or find a coach that's been through it because that helps so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's do science of food then, right? And we talked a little bit about this. Like raw food has the energy from the sun, it has energy from the soil. You know, you want to kind of stick to foods that are light and bright and raw and organic. But there's obviously going to be times that we eat foods that don't fall in that spectrum. So I think both of us kind of preach that balance. So do you want to share some of your favorite foods that you recommend that are more like high vibrational, like things that you kind of implement in your routine or have your clients implement so that they can have the cheat days and they can have alcohol on the weekends?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I mean, I am a freaking salad fanatic, okay? Like I love salads at all time, but I always make sure that, like, for instance, I have a really balanced approach to it. So I wake up in the morning and I drink my power shake first thing in the morning because that is what's going to get me into a high vibration, right? But within my day, I don't like do like Monday through Friday like super like strict or anything like that. I kind of balance the both. So high vibrational foods that I do consume would be I get organic everything, almost everything. So if I'm getting wraps, like tortilla wraps, or I'm getting potatoes that I'm going to be air frying, or if I get anything like that, it's going to be pretty much organic most of the time. And but most of the time, like what I really enjoy is eating like carrots that are organic. I like eating spring mix. I like eating organic mushrooms with my salads, tomatoes, organic tomatoes, things like that. But then within my day, I'm also eating, like I said, air fried potatoes. I'm also eating tortilla wraps and things that are a little bit processed, but I'm always looking at the ingredients and making sure that there is no high fructose corn syrup because that's super low vibrational. I'm always making sure that there is no hydrogenated oils because that's super high vibration or super low vibrational as well. So it's super important that we are taking into consideration the ingredients no matter what it is that you are eating and enjoying it, but making sure that you're not ingesting all this nasty stuff. So I counteract it. I don't know if it's counterbalance or counteract it, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
with the power shake and my biomedic. And if I am gonna have that cookie, if I am gonna have that, I know that I'm super consistent with my supplements every single day so that I can afford that and I don't bloat up and feel like crap.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I love that you brought that up because you balance and you have all these foods that are really, really good and high vibrational. You have some foods that are like in the middle, like they're not great, but they're not bad either. And then you have foods that, of course, are not vibrational. But when you do eat them, you have no guilt, you have no shame, and you're not adding any kind of negativity to that food. So that's huge.
Yes, exactly. And that's one thing that was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to get into that balanced mindset. It was really hard for me to get into not looking at my food with shame or guilt. But like you said, it all came with phases, and it all came with phases of inner healing. And it all came when I started really realizing that all I was doing was self-sabotaging by looking at my food and creating all this guilt and shame. And why, if we are in this world, in this earth to learn and to love ourselves so deeply, why are we self-sabotaging with things that are not going to make us feel good, you know? And that's what my biggest
Mhm.
realization was. And when I realized that, I was like, wow, I'm going to be very grateful for the foods that I'm ingesting. I'm going to be very balanced with what I am eating. I'm not going to sit there and try to snack on everything just because I'm trying to let my emotions out on this food.
Yep.
I deserve to have a healthy high vibrational body. I deserve it. So that was huge for me. It all takes time, it all takes healing, but most importantly, it takes some deep inner self love, which is the hardest part of this all.
Totally. So I know that you and I could sit here and like have a whole like make a whole list of all the foods that are high vibrational and what's the best foods. So instead of like taking time on the podcast, because I know a lot of people listen to this while they're driving or cooking or cleaning and don't want to get a notepad out, you and I are putting together a high vibrational superfoods like cheat sheet. So anyone that's listening, if you guys want a copy of it, it literally lists like the best vibrational foods. It lists different vibrations of certain foods, like what meat is or milk. So if you want to kind of like look at the balance. we'll just put it in the show notes, or you can email one of us. We'll make it really clear that you guys can get a copy of it, because that is really amazing. And it just helps to kind of know, right?
Yes, exactly. I feel like that's going to be super cool for people to see, and like even with the different types of stuff that we've put together, they'll be able to really kind of have that balance. Like if they are going to the store and they have a shopping list, it's like, okay, let me have that balance and get myself some fresh herbs, some fresh spices, and some lemon water and some sea salt and things like that. And also allow myself to have that little Rice Krispie right before I work out, right? So it's like being
Exactly.
able to have that list of all the stuff, and then knowing the things that you do enjoy, I feel like it's going to be very, very good for allowing the listener, whoever you are, to be able to put them together and have that balance with your shopping list. I feel like that's going to be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we're like collaborating and making that happen, because I think a lot of people want to know what diet is good for them. And I'm like, okay, let's not worry about diets. Let's worry about like types of food. And so we'll give
Yes.
you the cheat sheets.
Yay.
Okay, awesome. So, last thing I really kind of want to talk about the science of food before we get into like the soul vibration is your thoughts on the energetics of meat. This is something I've done like a couple different videos on and have like touched upon a little bit. And it's a big topic in the vegan world, right? So, like, animals obviously are living beings. They have emotions, they have feelings. Even though they can't express it to us, doesn't mean they don't experience them, right? And so when we consume meat, there's this huge belief that whatever the animal was going through, whether it was raised humanely and free range and they were happy and has great quality life, or if they were like processed and like had these like death mills, with like cattle and stuff, whatever energetic that animal felt, when we consume the meat, we are absorbing those emotions. That energy in that meat becomes our own energy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, in that sense, that's why I stick to mostly organic types of meat. But when it comes to that, honestly, I did go whenever I was doing my healing journey, I did completely remove meat. I was only eating like egg whites for my protein intake. And I feel like it was more for that type of for that time in my life where I had to really remove it just to fully cleanse my body out. But personally, I feel like if you're cautious with the type of meat that you are purchasing and where it comes from and all that stuff, I feel like you can still enjoy it. And I feel like it's a person to person kind of thing. You know what I mean? I don't have a lot of knowledge with that because I don't have a vegan style of a diet, quote unquote. But I do feel like it's very important. Like, for instance, I used to eat Walmart chicken, right? The
Yep.
huge chicken breasts that just look like freaking
Steroid.
pesticides. Yeah, they were freaking huge. I was like, damn, I don't know. Like, are these like Hulk chicken? I don't know. But I was eating that before when I was doing my bikini competitions and all that stuff. And I
And
completely
probably a
switched.
lot of it, right? Like when you're in like fitness and
Oh,
you're building muscle, you're not just eating like a little bit of bad chicken. You're eating like chicken all day.
yeah, and I had no idea. Oh my god! Like just thinking about it, I'm like, oh my god, what did I do to myself? But I had no idea what I was putting in my body. And then once I switched over to organic stuff and I started really taking care and being a little bit more cautious with that and with the type of eggs that I buy and all that, that's when I started to notice a shift. But I think it's dependent on the person on what kind of emotion they're putting towards that. But I do agree with the fact that whatever the animal went through, like it's a living form, you're putting that into your body as well.
Yeah, and I'm like you too. I don't follow a vegan diet or anything. My body thrives with animal protein, but I think it comes down to like just quality, right? If you have like a local farmer that you can go get eggs from, or people that raise like turkeys and chickens, and like that's where you get your meat from, I think really that's a huge part of society that we're actually starting to realize how important it is to go with local farms and to go with humane practices when it comes to animals. And that brings the level of vibration and love up, because the way they're treating the animals is with love. And then that love can get filtered into us versus just greed and money and things like that. Everything comes with an emotional price. So
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, and then what about water? Like that's a big thing too, high vibrational water, not just the food, but like not having like water that's filled with like heavy metals and arsenic and tap water and fluoride and chlorine and all that. So do you really kind of pay attention to like your water? Or do you have any tricks for like increasing the vibration in your water? I mean, I have a few, but I'm just curious.
You asking me that question, I feel like it's a sign because lately I've been really thinking a lot about that. Especially when I got off the podcast with Jake Woodard, he was talking, like, I asked him, what are some of the practices that you have for your health and fitness? And he says that water is a huge thing, like the type of water that he's drinking, and that kind of really kind of like opened up my mind, and I was very curious to that. And right now, I'll be completely honest with all of you listeners out there. I'm still learning. I am perfect, but I drink the water from my fridge. So you asking me this question is actually like sparking that in me to kind of change that, and I really do want to hear what you have to say about it, because I think that's my next step with all of this. Like, I want to do whatever I possibly can do to stay at a high vibration at all times. Like, why not if we have control over it? So I'm really excited to hear your end on things on that, so that I can start really honing in and having a different approach to water.
So everyone that knows me knows I am a water snob. I've always been this way. I don't know, maybe just like a subconscious thing or a past life thing, but like always been a water snob. Like, I won't drink out of the faucet. When I go out to restaurants, I bring my own water bottles, like that has filtered water from my house. And people think I'm so weird. They're like, it's just water. Like, it's not poisonous. Obviously, it's coming out of the tap, right? But the biggest thing that I started realizing is that when you have these chemicals in our water, so when it comes out of the tap, there's actually a database that you can go on. It's called the EWG, the Environmental Working Group. So it's ewg.org. And they have a tap water database. And it is like not government funded. It's like their own private research company. You can type in your zip code, and then your zip code and your municipality's water plant will come up. And they do testing to see what's actually in your water. So although it's not over the legal limit, it still is in the water. So for my area, I found out that there was high arsenic in the water. It wasn't over the legal limit, so they could still have it. But like, what? Excuse me, I don't want arsenic in my water. I don't want chlorine in my water. Like, I don't get into a pool and start drinking the water. So that's kind of what shifted for me in the first place. So I started realizing if our body is, 80% water, like that might be a huge place to start. So you can't, and I know a lot of people can't be investing $200 in like a water system. I love reverse osmosis. So if you have the financial resources and you want to do an investment, and the cheapest way is called a reverse osmosis system. You can buy them on Amazon. It's like 4 filters. You plug it in underneath your faucet, and it will come out with pure water, like 0.0 parts per million, nothing in it. And then what you want to do is remineralize the water, right? Because we do want healthy minerals. We want sodium and potassium and magnesium and all these electrolytes that help our body function. So I always remineralize my water. Now, that's not like, let's say you just have a Brita, or like you said, Joa, like you're going to take it out of your faucet or it comes out of your refrigerator because you have a really cool, like, fridge that you can get ice cubes and everything. So what I do, if you don't have the other option, is I add intention to all my water. So no matter whether I do a reverse osmosis, or let's say I'm out at a restaurant and I'm thirsty and I'm going to drink the water, I always put good intentions in the water. Like we talked about with plants, talk good of the plants and the plants will thrive. I always put good intention in my water. So I'll just have like a little moment to myself, and I'll put my hand around the cup, and I'll just, it just give it good intentions. That water is meant to help me thrive, and it's going to make me hydrated, and it's going to glow my skin, and having that intention. The other crazy thing I've done before, and like, nobody judge me, okay? Judge-free zone. I have taken, like those mega 5-gallon like water things that you get from like the water delivery company, those like big 5-gallon ones.
Mm-hmm.
I've filled it with water, put it in my car, drove around town with the windows down, letting the sun hit it in the back seat, blasting like EDM music, like putting in like music and sound vibration and sunlight, and just like cruising with the wind, like the sea salt, like driving, like I've done this like literally like it's my child.
I freaking love that. I love that so much. Like,
I
I'm
want
going
to
to
go
start
for a
doing that.
drive. I mean, why not, right? Like add music to it. That changes the vibration. Like you can see when you turn bass on and you set water next to like a speaker with bass, what happens to the water? It starts moving, it starts vibrating. So why not put some like happy, positive music up in there,
I
right? If you
love
like classical
it.
music. And then the other thing I do is moon water. So like moonlight is super powerful because it's the combination of sun hitting the moon and then getting all the minerals bouncing off the moon into your water. So I will once a month on the full moon always put like a pitcher of water outside, make moon water, and then I put it in the fridge and then I just like add a little bit to like every gallon of water I drink. I don't know. It's just my thing. So hopefully it helps inspire you guys to just change that up in your water.
Yes, I love that. Well, it's so huge because we're mainly mostly made out of water. So that makes all the sense. You know what I mean? And everything is energy, everything is vibration. So having high vibrational water and drinking that means that you're going to be in a high vibrational state. So I love that. That's a really, really
Yeah,
good point. That's my next step.
I love it. And
I'm gonna be driving down Bayshore with my windows down. What are you doing?
yes,
What are you doing, Joanne? I'm just putting some vibrations in my water. What you mean?
I'm telling you, and if you have a convertible, like bonus points, because my man has a convertible, and I actually like made him put the top down one day, and I was like, we have to go for a drive with my water, and I was like, Lord bless the man that's able to put up with my woo woo shenanigans,
I
because he
love
did it
it.
and didn't even think it was weird. He's like, okay, if this makes you happy, like we're doing it.
I
I think
love
I have
it.
a video of it. I should post it on my Instagram. It's
Yes,
pretty
please.
funny.
Yes.
And you don't have to spend a bunch of money on water. That's the thing. Like, you don't have to go to the store and buy the $2 little tiny thing of water that says pH balance, like high alkaline. Like, that's not really what it's about. Add some sea salt, add some minerals, get some electrolyte drops, and then just put your intention in it and add in the sunlight. Like, keep it simple and don't have to waste a bunch of money on something like this.
I love that.
Okay, so last topic, we've been talking about it pretty much this whole podcast, soul level vibration. How we can use our food to get to that next level of vibration in our life, whether it's to connect with the divine, if you're someone into spirituality, or just having like more happier, loving thoughts. Like this is really what we've both been preaching, right?
Yes, 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 yes. That's a huge one for me because like I said, there's just the start of me healing my gut and really ingesting all this high vibrational foods and supplements. That's what really sparked the spiritual awakening for me, and I'm huge on that. Like I'm so huge on that because when you increase that aura around you and you increase your energy field around you, you are becoming more balanced. Your mind, your body, and your spirit are actually aligning. Because if your mind is somewhere, your body's elsewhere, and your spirit is elsewhere, that means that you are not allowing any energy flow from the divine into your physical realm, right? Because the way that I like to put it is think of like your mind, your body, and your soul are these three little holes, right? And if they're all over the place, how are you going to be getting energy from the divine? You can't. But once you align them, now you have like a hose from your physical reality to the divine energy that we get to experience if we really hone in on it. And you have this hose now that's really allowing that energy flow to go in and out, right? And you're more channeled and you're becoming more intuitive and you're becoming more aware and you're becoming more light and free and you're healing. So it's definitely something that I preach at all times. And, it was hard a little bit at first to preach this stuff because I'm like, people are just going to think I'm woo woo, but I don't care because the right people who are meant to be in my path and are meant to heal with what I'm teaching are the people that are seeing that. They're seeing those transformations and they're seeing it because with the food that they're ingesting, they're seeing it because they're doing the inner work and now they're aligning themselves and seeing that hose really bring in the energy from the divine. So it's just phenomenal to see these transformations, honestly.
Yeah, and you put that so nicely. And I think it's because you've actually been through it. And can you kind of share a little bit? You just did like a 90-day fast and really kind of focus on like positive thoughts around food and not drinking alcohol. Like, can you give us some practical tips that you learned from that? Like, what was that like?
It was phenomenal. It was so back in February, I had gone out with my friend for her birthday and we drank for days. And I just woke up feeling like ultimate crap, like hungover, just so bad. And I made decisions that night that I didn't really enjoy about myself. They just didn't align with the higher version of myself anymore. And mind you, I did this after I did like my gut healing and stuff. So I was already vibrating pretty high. And then I got myself at a very low, low again. And now I knew the difference between a very high, high and a very low, low. So it really
Yep.
drove me. And once again, like I said, channeling that divine energy, what it really did was I laid on my floor and I freaking cried my eyes out because I was like, I am done. I want to leave this old identity of myself behind. And that old identity is the girl that was feeling guilty with food, the girl that just there was no way I was going to lose weight. The girl that was making poor decisions that she knew that were just self-sabotaging. I knew that it was time to let that go, right? And I channeled in this energy that told me, Joanna, you need to take the next 90 days to do a fast where you're going to, I called it praying and fasting for 90 days. So praying for me is anywhere from like actual prayer to meditation, all that. And something just came through me and told me that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do it. And it's hard to think 90 days, that's 3 freaking months. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
90 days, but something told me and I wasn't going to ignore that inner calling, right? So the main things that I learned along the way were really how to leave that old identity behind. And I'm talking about like purging emotions like never before. I'm talking about literally being at my apartment talking to Shanice and having to go in my room and cry because I felt just emotions literally purging out of me. I went into my bathtub because there was this time where I was just feeling so dark. And the reason being is because obviously when you allow the energy to that energy and motion to flow around your body, you're going to purge out different emotions, right? So I went in my bathroom and I literally laid in my bathtub. I have a big bathtub, in my blankets and my pillows, and I just purged emotions. And I'm talking about like ugly girl cry, like Kim Kardashian crying, like feeling this freaking emotion just purge out of me. And I had so many of those sessions, just purging emotions, purging emotions, purging emotions, because you get to a point where it's just so sad when you realize that you just self-sabotage so much, whether it's with food, whether it's with alcohol, whether you're attaching yourself to fill a void some way, shape, or form. And that's why a lot of people do struggle with food in that sense, because they're trying to really fill in this void that they have within themselves. And that's what I was doing. So as I was letting that old identity go, it's like my old self was grieving. Like I was just grieving that old Joanna. I accepted her, I loved her, but I let her go. So it was like a grieving journey for 90 days. And what I came to find out was I didn't need the alcohol. I didn't need the food. I didn't need the boys. I didn't need the partying. All I needed was the love within myself and to channel that divine energy that we keep talking about. And I started learning that through putting intentions towards my food, like we said. I started being very intentional with when I was taking my supplementation, with my exercising. I lost 15 pounds along the way,
Which
which
is
was
huge.
just phenomenal because I was feeling so, it's just so crazy. When I was at my heaviest, I had this wall around me. It was like this wall. I was just trying to protect myself and protect myself from actually being my true self. And when I actually allowed myself to uncover the true Joanna within, and let me tell you, I'm not done healing. There's still a lot of healing I'm doing. But when I really just allowed myself to shine my light and just take care of me and finally prioritize me, abundance started flooding in like never before. Like it was insane the way that I was reflecting in my outer reality. I was reflecting in my relationships. It was reflecting in the business. It was reflecting in the finances. JoaFitness coaching did the best it ever has since it started. And it's definitely because of the whole healing. It's definitely because of taking the time to fully love myself. And it's definitely because I no longer allowed food or alcohol or anything to control me. So
I love that. And you're just such an inspiration because you practice what you preach, and everything that you share with your clients and hold their hand, you've been there and you've done that. And I think just this last 90 days is just proof that when you get like your gut health right and everything we've been talking about kind of pulls right together, you did all the like little things and then just did like a 90-day where you're like, it's time for me. It's time to vibe higher. It's time to cut out the things that are like bringing me down, whether they are habits, behaviors, thoughts, food, alcohol, whatever it might be, and just really allow yourself to feel good with no guilt, no shame.
mm-hmm.
And it's amazing to kind of see it happen from the outside. So you guys need to go follow her on Instagram. She's like every day sharing her life day by day as she learns and grows. And it's just super, super inspiring.
Thank you so much.
So to wrap it up, like I just want to give a couple practical tips if you're like, okay, well, I don't know if I can commit to all that. Just like we said, a few simple things that you can do is just praying over our food. It's something they've talked about like in religion since the beginning of time, sitting down with your food and just being grateful for it, right? That prayer, that intention, that love that you give to your food will give it right back to you, even if maybe you're having a cheeseburger and french fries, right? Still give it love because you're raising the vibration in any way you possibly can. Intention setting with supplements is something I do every time I put a supplement in my mouth. I hold it in my hand for a moment and think, like, let's say it's a vitamin C. I'll be like, you are going to go in there and you are going to fight some oxidative stress. So get in there, vitamin C, and go do your thing. You know, like having this little pep talk with my supplements. It sounds crazy, but I'm just saying it helps. And then just gratitude, overall gratitude for the fact that we even can go to the grocery store and grab whatever the heck we want, good or bad. Like we have to bring it back to like the basics and just being grateful for what we have.
100%. I totally agree with that. And also, one of the biggest things is just becoming the person, like embodying the higher version of yourself who already has that dream body, who already has a healthy body, and acting like her or him, and just be putting that vibration out into the world, as you are also doing all the other little things, as intention setting with your food, your supplements, and being in a state of gratitude. Guys, that's the highest emotion on the emotional scale. Gratitude and forgiveness are. Being in a state of gratitude at all times, whether it's with food, working out, or whatever, is one of the best things you can do to stay at that high vibration, for sure.
Yeah, and something I've noticed once I've gotten to this space, and I'm sure you could probably say pretty similar, now you're like in an intuitive eating space, right? Like you can almost feel when your body needs a little bit more vibration. I'm like, oh, today I can feel a little low. I need to eat, this. Or maybe I should have 2 power shakes today instead of one. Or, oh, maybe I need a little bit more gut health support. So I should have like some sauerkraut. You can get to this space of intuitive eating once you cleanse out all the bad, you raise your vibration, and you become more aware of how you feel good and bad. And I think that's the ultimate goal for any of my clients. Get to a point where you don't have to measure everything. You don't have to stress out at the grocery store. You intuitively know what feels good and what doesn't, and you have the ability to make the choice, right?
Yes, I love that. And that's another thing too with my clients. It's like I preach and teach them macros. The reason being is because I do 100% believe that each one of our bodies is different. Like we say, and each one of our bodies does need a certain caloric range depending on what their goals are. If they want to stay leaner, if they want to gain a little bit more muscle, we all do need that. But I also feel like exactly what you said. I always let them know you're going to count macros and you're going to sacrifice this for a little bit, but then you're going to get to a point where you can really just learn your portions and allow yourself to have that kind of like that freedom with the food. You don't have to weigh every single thing out, like all of that. You know what I mean? So just that's the reason being on why I do the macros and why we lead them into a more balanced lifestyle.
Yep. It's all just little baby steps until you can get to the place you want to be.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, girl, for spending an hour with us and then being so raw and so real and so vulnerable and just sharing your whole story and then peppering us with some of your knowledge. Thank you so, so much. Is there any last parting words you want to share with people? And please tell them how they can get a hold of you and follow you on all your social media platforms.
Yes, girl. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I was super excited for this. I know we both have busy lives, but hey, we made it happen, and this is something that can really impact a lot of people out there. So, one last thing I want to tell people is, if you are looking to really maximize your energy and get in a higher vibration and really just become more in tune with yourself, and finally prioritizing your own love for yourself, do it. Don't wait any longer. You're in this world to learn. You're in this world on this planet to find freedom. So why live a life full of no freedom and living life in a negative vibration? Like, we have the control. We have the ability. I promise you, God, higher power, whatever it is that you believe in, wants you to be vibrating high so that you can be right there along with him and following your purpose on this planet. So that's the last thing I had to say. And you can find me on Instagram at _ JoaFitness. The website for Joa Fitness Coaching is joa-fitness.com. And you can also find me on Apple Podcasts at the Fit and Fulfilled podcast. So I have a lot of topics on there about emotions and food and all this stuff that we just talked about as well. So I want to thank you so much, Mandy. I love you so much. I'm so happy that we did this. And I hope that everyone listening learned a little thing or two from this.
Yes. Thank you so much, girlfriend. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I can't wait to have you on again. We'll have to come up with another fun topic.
Yeah, it's your turn to be on mine next time.
Ooh, all
Ooh.
right.
Love you, girl.
Love you, babe. Bye.
Bye.
And whether you're indulging or upgrading, cheers.